Hiya! Welcome to Sniper's Rest. Sniper's Rest is the last best rest stop in the here and there, the place between where you're coming from and where you're going. I am Sniper Shadow and I reside here in Sniper's Rest as a guide and custodian to those who pass through here. I visit the worlds within the multiverse often, but I am always here to guide and care for travelers such as yourself that pass through the here and there. Welcome, my friends! My apologies, I'm a bit late this week. So much to do, so little time. The flu has been sweeping through again. I am telling you, traveler, it seems like every other week someone has the flu as of late. Frank, you best be getting your face out of our friend's bag. Remember what happened last time you stuck your nose? Well, lack of nose. In a traveler's bag? That Fae was not happy with you. What's that, friend? Oh, you've been farming. Frank will be after your carrots then. He can never get enough of those. Sit. Relax. I'll get your usual. And as always, please take a rest here before continuing your journey. Today, we continue reading the series of short stories by H.P. Lovecraft. Our tale today is another fantasy/horror, first published in the Scot in June of 1920. It's called The Doom That Came to Sarnath. Let's begin. There is, in the land of Mnar, a vast still lake that is fed by no stream, and out of which no stream flows. 10,000 years ago, there stood by its shore the mighty city of Sarnath. But Sarnath stands there no more. It is told that in the immemorial years, when the world was young, before ever the men of Sarnath came to the land of Mnar, another city stood beside the lake, the grey stone city of Ilb, which was old as the lake itself, and peopled with beings not pleasing to behold. Very odd and ugly were these beings, as indeed are most of the beings of a world yet Inchoate and rudely fashioned. It is written on the brick cylinders of Cadatherion that the beings of Ilb were in hue as green as the lake, and the mists that rise above it, that they had bulging eyes, pouty, flabby lips, and curious ears, and were without voice. It is also written that they descended one night from the moon in a mist. They and the vast still lake and the grey stone city Ilb. However this may be, it is certain that they worshipped a sea-green stone idol, chiselled in the likeness of Bokrug, the great water lizard, before which they danced horribly when the moon was gibbous. And it is written in the papyrus of Aleksic that they one day discovered fire, and thereafter kindled flames on many ceremonial occasions. But not much is written of these beings, because they lived in very ancient times. And man is young, and knows little of the very ancient living things. After many aeons, man came to the land of Mnar, dark shepherd folk with their fleecy flocks, who built Thara, Aleksic, and Cadatherion on the winding river of Ai. And certain tribes, more hardy than the rest, pushed on to the border of the lake and built Sarnath at a spot where precious metals were found in the earth. Not far from the grey city of Ilb did the wandering tribes first lay the stones of Sarnath, and at the beings of Ilb they marvelled greatly. But with their marvellings was mixed hate, for they thought it not meet the beings of such aspect should walk about the world of men at dusk, nor did they like the strange sculptures upon the grey monoliths of Ilb. For those sculptures were terrible with great antiquity. Why the beings and sculptures lingered so late in the world, even until the coming of men, none can tell, unless it was because the land of Mnar is very still and remote from most other lands, both of waking and of dream. As the men of Sarnath beheld more of the beings of Ilb, their hate grew, and it was not less because they found the beings weak and soft as jelly to the touch of stones and spears and arrows. So one day, the young warriors, the slingers, and the spearmen and the bowmen marched against Ilb and slew all the inhabitants thereof, pushing the queer bodies into the lake with long spears because they did not wish to touch them. And because they did not like the grey sculptured monoliths of Ilb, they cast these also into the lake. Wandering from the greatness of the labour, however the stones were brought from afar, as they must have been, since there is naught like them in all the land of Mnar, or in the lands adjacent. Thus, of the very ancient city of Ilb, nothing was spared, save the sea-green stone idol chiselled in the likeness of Borug, the water lizard. This the young warriors took back with them to Sarnath as a symbol of conquest over the old gods and the beings of Ilb, and a sign of leadership in Mnar. But on the night after it was set up in the temple, a terrible thing must have happened, for weird lights were seen over the lake, and in the morning people found the idol gone, and the high priest Taton lying dead, as from some fear unspeakable. And before he died, Taton had scrawled upon the altar of Chrysolie with coarse, shaky strokes the sign of doom. After Taton, there were many high priests in Sarnath, but never was the sea-green stone idol found. And many centuries came and went, wherein Sarnath prospered exceedingly, so that only priests and old women remembered what Taton had scrawled upon the altar of Chrysolie. Betwixt the city of Sarnath and the city of Aleksic arose a caravan route, and the precious metals from the earth were exchanged for other metals and rare cloths and jewels and books and tools, for artificers and all things of luxury that are known to the people who dwell along the winding river of Ai and beyond. So Sarnath waxed mighty and learned and beautiful, and sent forth conquering armies to subdue the neighbouring cities. And in time there sate upon a throne in Sarnath the kings of all the lands of Mnar, and many lands adjacent. The wonder of the world and the pride of all mankind was Sarnath the magnificent. Of polished desert-quarried marble were its walls, in height 300 cubits, and in breadth 75, so that chariots might pass each other as men drave them along the top. For full 500 stadia did they run, being opened only on the side towards the lake, where a green stone sea wall kept back the waves that rose oddly once a year at the festival of the destroying of Ilb. In Sarnath were 50 streets from the lake to the gates of the caravans, and 50 more intersecting them. With onyx they were paved, save those whereon the horses and camels and elephants trod, which were paved with granite. And the gates of Sarnath were as many as the landward ends of the street, each of bronze, and flanked by the figures of lions and elephants carven from some stone no longer known among men. The houses of Sarnath were of glazed brick and chalcedony, each having its own walled garden and crystal lakelet. With strange art were they builded, for no other city had houses like them, and travellers from Thera and Ilarnec and Caradathion marvelled at the shining domes wherewith they were surmounted. But more marvellous still were the palaces and the temples and the gardens made by Sukar, the olden king. There were many palaces, the least of which were mightier than any in Thera or Ilarnec or Cadathiron. So high were they that one might sometimes fancy himself beneath only the sky. Yet when lighted with torches dipped in the oil of Duthar, the walls shewed vast paintings of kings and armies, of a splendour at once inspiring and stupidifying to the beholder. Many were the pillars of palaces, all of tinted marble, and carven into designs of surpassing beauty. And in most of the palaces the floors were mosaics of beryl and lapis lazuli, and sardonyx, and carbuncle, and other choice materials, so disposed that the beholder might fancy himself walking over beds of the rarest flowers. And there were likewise fountains, which cast scented waters about in pleasing jets, arranged with cunning art. Outshining all others was the palace of the kings of Mnar, and of the lands adjacent. On a pair of golden crouching lions rested the throne, many steps above the gleaming floor, and it was wrought of one piece of ivory, though no man lives who knows whence so vast a piece could have come. In that palace there were also many galleries and many amphitheatres, where lions and men and elephants battled at the pleasure of the kings. Sometimes the amphitheatres were flooded with water, conveyed from the lake in the mighty aqueducts, and then there were enacted stirring sea fights, or combats betwixt swimmers and deadly marine things. Lofty and amazing were the 17 tower-like temples of Sarnath, fashioned of a bright multicolored stone, not known elsewhere. A full 1,000 cubits high stood the greatest among them, wherein the priests dwelt, with a magnificence scarce less than that of other kings. On the ground were halls as vast and splendid as those of the palaces, where gathered in throngs to worship Zokala and Tamash and Lobin, the chief gods of Sarnath, whose incense-enveloped shrines were as the thrones of monarchs. Not like the Ikions of other gods were those of Zokala and Tamesh and Lobin, for so close to life were they that one might swear the graceful bearded gods themselves sate on the ivory thrones, and up unending steps of shining zircon was the tower chamber, wherefrom the high priests looked out over the city and the plains and the lake by day, and at the cryptic moon and significant stars and planets, and their reflection in the lake by night. Here was done the very secret and ancient rite in detestation of Bokrog, the water lizard, and here rested the altar of Chrysolie, which bore the doomed scroll of Taranish. Wonderful likewise were the gardens made by Zakor, the olden king. In the centre of Sarnath they lay, covering a great space and encircled by a high wall, and they were surmounted by a mighty dome of glass, through which shone the sun and moon and stars and planets, when it was clear, and from which were hung fulgurant images of the sun and moon and stars and planets when it was not clear. In the summer, the gardens were cooled with fresh, odorous breezes skillfully wafted by fans, and in the winter they were heated with concealed fires, so that in those gardens it was always spring. There ran little streams over bright pebbles, dividing meads of green and gardens of many hues, and spanned by a multitude of bridges. Many were the waterfalls in their courses, and many were the lilied lakelets into which they expanded. Over the streams and lakelets rode white swans, whilst the music of rare birds chimed in with the melody of the waters. In ordered terraces rose green banks, adorned here and there with boughs of vines and sweet blossoms, and seats and benches of marble and porphyry. And there were many small shrines and temples where one might rest or pray to small gods. Each year there was celebrated in Sarnath the feast of the destroying of ill, at which time wine, song, dancing, and merriment of every kind abounded. Great honors were then paid to the shades of those who had annihilated the odd ancient beings, and the memory of those beings and of their elder gods was derided by dancers and lunatists, crowned with roses from the gardens of Zakor. And the kings would look out over the lake and curse the bones of the dead that lay beneath it. At first the high priests liked not these festivals, for there had descended among them queer tales of how the sea-green Econon had vanished, and how Taranish had died from fear and left a warning. And they said that from their high tower they sometimes saw lights beneath the waters of the lake. But as many years passed without calamity, even the priests laughed and cursed and joined in the orgies of feasters. Indeed, had they not themselves, in their high tower, often performed the very ancient and secret rite in detestation of Bokarog, the water lizard? And 1,000 years of riches and delight passed over Sarnath, wonder of the world and pride of all mankind. Gorgeous beyond thought was the feast of the 1,000th year of destroying of ill. For a decade had been talked about the land of Mnar. As it drew nigh, there came to Sarnath on horses and camels and elephants, men from Thera, Ilarnek, and Cadathion, and all the cities of Mnar and the lands beyond. Before the marble walls, on the appointed night, were pitched the pavilions of princes and the tents of travellers. And all the shore resounded with the song of happy revellers. Within his banquet hall reclined Nagris Hai, the king, drunken with ancient wine from the vaults of conquered Panath, surrounded by feasting nobles and hurrying servants. There were eaten many strange delicacies at that feast. Peacocks from the isles of Nari in the middle ocean, young goats from the distant hills of Implan, heels of camels from Baznak desert, nuts and spices from Cytherian groves, and pearls from wave-washed metal dissolved in vinegar of Thera. Of sauces there were an untold number, prepared by the subtlest of cooks in all of Mnar, and suited to the palate of every feaster. But most prized of all the Vedans were the great fishes from the lake, each of vast size, and served up on golden platters set with rubies and diamonds. Whilst the king and his nobles feasted within the palace and viewed the crowning dish as it awaited them on golden platters, others feasted elsewhere, in the tower of the great temple of the priests, held revels, and in pavilions without the walls of the princes of neighboring lands made merry. And it was the high priest Gani Ka who first saw the shadows that descended from the gibbous moon into the lake, and the damnable green mist that arose from the lake to meet the moon, and to shroud in a sinister haze the towers and domes of the fated Sarnath. Thereafter, those in the towers and without the walls beheld strange lights on the water, and saw that the grey rock Acurion, which was wont to the rear high above and near the shore, was almost submerged, and fear grew vaguely yet swiftly, so that the princes of Alanak and of Far Rakul took down and folded their tents and pavilions and departed for the river Ai, though they scarce knew the reason for their departing. Then, close to the hour of midnight, all the bronze gates of Sarnath burst open and emptied forth a frenzied throng of that blackened to the plain, so that all the visiting princes and travellers fled away in fright. For on the faces of this throng was a writ of madness born of a horror unendurable, and on their tongues were words so terrible that no hearer paused for proof. Men whose eyes were wild with fear shrieked aloud at the sight within the king's banquet hall, where through the windows were seen no longer forms of Nagris High and his nobles and servants, but a horde of indescribable green voiceless things with bulging eyes, pouting flabby lips and curious ears, things which danced horribly, bearing their paws golden platters set with rubies and diamonds, containing uncouth flames. The princes and travellers, as they fled from the doomed city of Sarnath on horses and camels and elephants, looked again upon the mist-begetting lake, and saw the grey rock Acurion was quite submerged. Through all the lands of Mnar and the lands adjacent spread the tales of those who had fled from Sarnath, and the caravans sought that accursed city and its precious metals no more. It was long ere the traveller went thither, and even then only the brave and adventurous young men of distant Faloria dared to make the journey. Adventurous young men of yellow hair and blue eyes, who are no longer the kin to the men of Mnar. These men indeed went to view the lake and to view Sarnath. But though they found the vast still lake itself and the grey rock Acurion which rears high above its near the shore, they beheld not the wonder of the world and pride of all mankind, where once had risen walls of 300 cubits and towers yet higher, now stretched only the marshy shore, and where once had dwelt 50 million men, now crawled only the detestable green water lizard. Not even the mines of precious metal remained, for doom had come to Sarnath. But half buried with the rushes was spied a curious green idol of stone, an exceedingly ancient idol, coated with seaweed and chiselled in the likeness of Borag, the great water lizard. That idol, enshrined in the high temple of Iranak, was subsequently worshipped beneath the gibbous moon throughout the land of Mnar. The end. That concludes our tale for this week, my friend. Please return next week and we will continue with another short story by H.P. Lovecraft. If you wish to rest some more, please find a space that suits you. Whether you curl up by the fire, partake in some food and beverages in our kitchen, take a nap in one of our many rooms, or take a stroll around the garden, please know you are always welcome at Sniper's Rest, my friend. If you are continuing your journey, the multiverse is simply teeming with possibilities. To the north, you are lost in a world of chaos and madness. There are puzzles in ink around every corner. The return to the real world is horribly cluttered with all sorts of horrors. You're in the realm of shadow and ink now. You must discover the truth, escape, and above all, survive. To the west, A fanatical cult started by two horribly insane twins threatens the entire galaxy as it seeks ultimate power. Your ragtag group of 4 heroes, joined by every resistance movement you can get your hands on, must stop them. Or die trying. To the east, your inner demons haunt you. Every step of the way up, the perilous mountain climb. Jump, duck, platform your way to the peace you deserve. And if you are making your own way out there, good luck, my friend, wherever you end up. Wherever you come from, and wherever you're going, thank you for spending some time here with us at Sniper's Rest. Remember to take care of yourself, be kind to others, hydrate, take a moment to look out into the world and marvel at how incredible it all is. How incredible you are, friend. Until next time, please take care on your way.